Quake III Arena is a shooter that defines me as a gamer. It is one of those games that I will always look back on fondly, and it's one of those games that I absolutely fell in love with. And today's video is just a celebration of all things Quake 3 Arena. You're probably asking yourself, why the hell are we talking about a game that came out in 1999 right now? Largely because my love for QuakeCon and just all the nostalgia I have with that, partially because it's for free right now on the Bethesda Launcher. I'm not going to pretend that it's some game I play every day, because it's not. I have long since retired from my time as Quake 3 Arena champion. But what an amazing run it was. And I played this game in college pretty much exclusively, and I have a really lot of fond memories of it. My history with it is that I picked it up in college, and I went to college from 2000 to 2004. And it was our go-to game during all of our downtime. And a group of friends, starting with my roommate and his best friend, both of which were from Barbados, would come over in our room, and we would play pretty much all day. And the guy's name's Tariq. I don't want to give out his last name in case, I don't know, I just don't want to give it away. I don't mind you guys knowing who I am, but we'll just call him Tariq. Tariq was one of the coolest dudes I ever met, and he taught me everything, and I mean everything that I know today of a first-person shooter. He taught me how to rocket jump, he taught me how to circle strafe, he taught me how to change weapons, he explained to me mouse sensitivity and mouse smoothing, and all these things that we take for granted now were things that he just basically taught me. And it wasn't like we sat down and had formal lessons or anything. It was just him over the 4 years that I knew him in college, of us playing together and him showing me things and explaining tricks to me. And it was all exclusively on Quake 3 Arena. So that's just my history with the game. I love it. I will always have fond memories of it. It's where I got my handle Viper Magic. It's where I learned how to play games. It's so many things. And yeah, good times. So Quake 3 Arena, really interesting, some interesting tidbits on this game, since this is my love letter video to it. Came out in 1999 from id Software, developed primarily by Tim Willits and Graham Devine. Tim Willits, definitely a name and face that you probably have seen, although he's since kind of retired from Bethesda / id, whatever. It's definitely a staple of the company, and this was a very interesting experiment, because up until this point, Quake had been a linear story-based game. Yes, it had some multiplayer aspects, but it was not really known for the multiplayer. It was known for that single-player story as you worked your way through and, fought demons and all that great thing. It was Quake 3 that decided they were going to basically drop that single-player campaign with a plot, and instead it was going to simulate this universe in which you fought at the, basically you were fodder for this race of superhumans known as the Vadagar. I know, lore you don't care about. But basically they were all powerful, and they basically took all of these various heroes through time and space and put them in this giant arena to fight for their pleasure. That's how you can die and be reborn and respawn and all that kind of stuff. That was the lore behind it. And basically, it involved you working your way up through a bunch of tiers, starting with Crash at tier 0, working your way up to tier 7, which the guy's name was Zero, which is kind of funny. Not tier 0, his name was Zero. And you had to fight these various champions along the way. That was the single-player aspect, but the multiplayer is really where this game would shine. And that's where a lot of people, like myself, really spent a significant amount of time. I will say this is definitely one of the, if not the most balanced shooters I've ever played. Every single weapon has a function, a range, and a distinct utilization, and the best players, and Tariq was one of the best players that I've ever played with, knew when to switch to what weapon at what time. You know, at point blank, a shotgun will kill you faster 100% of the time than a pulse rifle or a machine gun, because that's what it did. But when you started to extend that range, the shotgun wasn't as powerful and you had to switch out to other weapons. And this game did such a phenomenal job of balancing it. I honestly, in all the years I've played competitive shooters, whether it be Halo or Call of Duty or any of the various battle royales that have come along since this time, and there's been a few. Remember, this game came out in 1999. I have yet to find a game that balanced things as well as Quake III Arena did. It just had such a phenomenal feel, and every gun had such a unique fit, form, and function that made it so rewarding to play. That when you spawned in, and if you couldn't find a gun right away, you could still be competitive if you knew how to properly distance yourself from an enemy. I just thought that was a really, really cool thing that they did. And they had other abilities as well, like speed boost and quad damage and armor and that sort of thing. And those were put in very specific points of the map that were contentious, that forced you to kind of stick your neck out. It was a risk reward system. Keep in mind the levels designs in this game incredibly simple. The entire installation of this game is under 500 megabytes, just to give you an idea of how little it is. So they didn't have a ton of stuff. The models were definitely very archaic by today's standards, but at the time they were good enough. And the level designs were complex enough, yet simple enough that you could find enemies quickly if you wanted to. You knew very simple ways to retreat. You knew where the power-ups were, and it made for very interesting matches. They had other game modes too. You know, they had the traditional free-for-all. They had a capture the flag mode. But most of the people will agree that this game shone mostly on that 1v1 tournament mode where you fought against one other human player. And just the way that these guns worked, and I know I'm harping on this point, but the way that this game was balanced, it just felt so good. And if you lost, it was because you were outskilled. It wasn't a cheap kill. It wasn't somebody had a better gun than you, a stronger gun than you. It wasn't any of that stuff. And that's something I find that in every shooter since this one, really, no one's figured that recipe out. I can't tell you the number of times I'm playing Halo and somebody's a power weapon, and it's like, oh, they kill you because they have a Spanker rocket launcher and you have a Magnum. This didn't happen in Quake 3. It was a phenomenal experience. Now, some of the cool things that this game also implemented, just some fun little facts for you guys. Some other cool things that it implemented was a very minimalistic HUD. That was something that I really appreciated. The HUD is incredibly basic. The items, the power-ups, everything very simple looking. I think that was done primarily to keep the focus on the action. There wasn't a lot of overlay or menus or any of that kind of stuff. There didn't need to be. I think the game spoke for itself in terms of performance and in terms of that competitive spirit. That was something that I really, really appreciated about that game. There were a lot of add-ons that came on later on, including one of my favorite mods, the grappling hook, which was a very easy mod to install. This game actually on the home screen actually has a place for you to mod, so it was very mod friendly from the beginning. It was built from the ground up with that in mind. And people made some really goofy mods. There was like an excessive mod where like a railgun would shoot like, you know, rapid fire, or there were mods that, you know, had like everything was zero gravity or very low gravity. But the fact that they embraced modding so early on that it's part of the main menu, I think spoke to the legacy of this game. And it's something that I appreciated, that they were very willing from the get-go to have you, you know, make it your own. So I like that a lot as well. Another interesting thing about this game, on top of the simplistic design and the character models, as well as the modifications, were that the AI had a soft logic built into them, written by R.A. Salvatore, who you may know from just famous literary works, but he's also the author of Kingdom of Amalur Reckoning. So not that there's a whole lot of dialogue here, honestly, but you were able to talk and have somewhat loose conversations with the AI, and they would respond. It was based on a fuzzy logic, but they did talk to you, and each character had their own distinct personality. which was fun. And they would taunt you while you were playing. So if you were really good or really bad, they would talk to you, not voiceover, unfortunately. The technology really didn't exist back then. But they would just give you a little text chat, and they would either, congratulate you on your victory or make fun of you. Typically, they made fun of you. And based on that fuzzy logic, you could respond, and based on certain keywords, they would respond, and you could kind of had somewhat of a dialogue with them, which was incredibly interesting. Now, I played this on PC. It ultimately did port over to other consoles, but the truth is this PC obviously is where it reigns supreme, and it got incredibly high review scores at the time. It netted a significant amount of money after its first year of launch, and it was definitely the staple of QuakeCon, of DreamHack, of the now defunct, I don't know if they're still I shouldn't say defunct, the World Cyber Games, which they might still be around, but it was really popular back then. A DreamHack for sure. It was definitely a staple game of DreamHack, and just tons of fun. I really, really enjoyed this game. So just wanted to give a little summation of my favorite first-person shooter of all time, Quake III Arena. I love it. I have such fond memories of it, and it's really a big reflection of who I am as a gamer today. Hope you guys enjoyed this trip down memory lane. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.